The Sacramento Kings have engaged in a calculated war with management during its recent history that has culminated in lockouts in '99 and '11 that resulted in lost revenue due to downtime and lost games. Both parties relied on attitudinal structuring to shape perceptions. The fallout between the union and management showed that lengthy disagreements were not efficient because valuable time was lost, nor wise because unity and civility was tested, or amicable because leadership on both sides suffered strained relationships and had their motives questioned, which led to an industrial relations killer, distrust. The union was not happy about losing the '99 lockout, and the wounds from the '11 union lockout loss will resurface in 2017. Group 2's final video explores the labor rift between Kings management and the players' union by focusing on whether past labor events and conflicts were efficient, amicable, and wise. The Kings bargained by electing player union representatives using the court system when they decertify and electing a union president who is usually one of the top negotiators in America. The NBA commissioner is appointed and hired by the 30 owners to spearhead, lead, discipline, and keep the league focused and financially healthy by making tough decisions and using positional bargaining to preserve relationships. One of the basic themes at the beginning of the course we emphasized was unions grieve and management bargain. Another course concept was Dunlop's three actors ideology. Government, union, and management make up these key players, along with the fourth actor, which consists of superfans, TV networks, and corporate sponsors, who allow union members and top negotiators to enjoy multi-million-dollar salaries by financing and investing in the league. One way to sustain the title as the highest paid union members is to use collective bargaining to enforce industrial democracy and employee voice in regards to deciding the level of wage compensation and perks. Interest-based bargaining strives to gain a common goal among competing values. The Kings also use a secret card ballot as mentioned in an April course article. The Kings card check is harder to defraud because most members are famous to various degrees. Attitudinal structuring, one of Dunlop's four subprocesses, allows both sides to show understanding and empathy when deciding how to fairly divide the annual $1.1 billion pie. This integrative bargaining concept seeks out common or complementary interests in solving problems for both union and management. This video aims to give viewers the key points on the usefulness and deficiencies of labor relations. At the strategic level, the Kings cannot afford to take any of their fan base for granted because there's stiff competition among other sports agencies such as the NHL, Major League Baseball, and the NFL. Fans have a right to boycott controversial labor relation behaviors like hostile work environments and racial discrimination by sketchy franchises like the Los Angeles Clippers, Miami Dolphins, and Boston Bruins. Our semester-long study of labor relations shows that lockouts are not the solution. Lockouts were designed to protect interests of both parties. In this clip, Commissioner Stern states that the union decision to decertify was just a negotiation tactic or ploy, and it was self-destructive in nature. And he foreseen a nuclear winter.
An unfair labor practice charge with the National Labor Relations Board some time ago, saying that the threat of decertification and its use of a tactic, really, was causing the union not to negotiate in good faith. And we started a federal action against the union, saying that they were heading in this direction, refusing to bargain in good faith because they thought that they would be decertifying or disclaiming, excuse me, and sue us in federal court. So there's an NLRB proceeding.
Stephen A. Smith gives a candid view of the NBA lockout in a nutshell.
Fans, would say, come on, these ball players make so money, these owners make so much money. What happened to it all being about the game, the love of the game?
Well, first of all, the fans need to get over it. That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, what it really comes down to in all seriousness is this, and I've constantly used this analogy on my radio show on ESPN New York in LA. The fact is that if I come up to you and I gave you $1 million, you'd have a smile on your face. You'd be happier than a pig in mud because it's $1 million. But if I had $10 million, a bowl with $10 million in it, and only the two of us had access to it, and then I gave you that same $1 million, you would say, wait a minute, why do you get the other 9? And that's what's at the crux of this. You got to follow the dollars. Everybody wants a big share.
Yeah, greed.
It's not greed. Well, if you're an owner. If you're an owner and the economic recession has kicked in and you've lost an abundance of money, you want to get some of that back. If you're the players, you want to hold on to the agreement that you have. So there's really no bad guy in this particular situation, considering the economic recession and how it ravaged a lot of teams and the owners and the respective cities involved. But the bottom line is they've got to make a deal because clearly the NBA is on an upswing. Ratings have been off the charts. It's been a phenomenal basketball season, one of the best I've ever covered in years. They've got to do something.
And fans don't.
Finally, I'll discuss what does Northwestern's football team's decision to unionize mean for the NBA, since that is their key recruiting pool. The NBA would not panic about Northwestern football team's decision to unionize because the NBA would like players to stay in college longer. I believe the NBA would be okay as long as compensation wasn't too high where student athletes are really profiting from their likeness and their performance.
When it comes to the destructive aspect of the 2011 lockout, the Kings lost about $1 million in revenue per game that was canceled. They lost $719,502 in ticket sales per game. $70,000 was lost because of the parking revenue per game. $208,359 was lost in vendor sales per canceled game. And the players will collectively lose $350 million per month during the lockout. The true victims of the lockout are the small business owners around the arena, like the guy who owns the pub across the street. Those business owners count on those game nights to keep their businesses going. They are also the people that work for the NBA, people like the trainers and the referees, who due to the lockout are not receiving a paycheck, people who do not have a say in the negotiation but count on those games to pay rent and their bills. The league's network of TV partners will also be the one to take a large hit due to the lockout. ESPN, ABC Sports, and TNT, if the season was to be canceled entirely, would lose as much as $1.25 billion in ad sales revenue. The NBA lockout has caused many people to lose profit. The 1999 lockout was the first time in history that any game was canceled because of labor disputes. The season was resumed after an agreement had been reached, but with only 50 games to go out of the usual 82. What that had cost the team was millions of disappointed fans that no longer were interested in the game and started to watch other sports. It took 3 years for the TV ratings to return back to what they were before this lockout. The 2011 lockout seemed to be a little bit different, though. The lockout did not stop fans from buying season tickets. The response was that they would be able to get a refund for every canceled game, but that they would rather want to watch the Kings play, though. The city of Sacramento also did not stop any plans with building a new arena for the Kings. So it looks like as if the fan base is much stronger and sturdier than it had been during the 1999 lockout. But still, regardless of how strong the fan base is, the longer a lockout lasts, the harder it will be for the Kings to win certain fans back. The last thing that the fans that love the game want to hear about is two sides arguing over money instead of playing the game and making their fans happy, who happen to actually be the ones that make it possible for the players to play the game. without the fans' interest, they wouldn't be on the court doing something that they are good at and love as their job. Attitudinal structuring, according to Walton and McCursey, involves shaping and reshaping some attitudes like trust or even distrust, friendliness or hostility between the labor and management, which in the case of the lockout means the owners and the players. Whenever there is bitterness between both of the parties, attitudinal structuring is required in order to maintain smooth and harmonious industrial relations. The NBA Commissioner David Stern had mentioned how there is a philosophical divide between the players and the owners. Lockouts are not the solution, though. It breaks the trust between the owners and the players that might have once been there. The players are going to feel bitter and mad because they have been locked out and are unable to play the game that they love and entertain their fans. And on top of all, the lockouts are also costly and make it the owners and players lose money, but it also causes many people that are working for the Kings and around the arena to not have a proper income during the lockout as well. The owners and players need more than just reaching a new agreement. In order to make their business last and grow, they need to share and respect each other. The only way to escape the hole in which they are threatening to buy themselves is for them to begin to talk. They must do so informally and transparently without protocol in pursuit of mutual respect.
The way to reaching this agreement is not necessarily possible through the means of collective bargaining. Collective bargaining has been used in the NBA since the creation of the National Basketball Players Association in 1953. Since then, there has been a total of 4 lockouts, the 2 most recent ones happening in the years 1998 through 1999 and 2011. The use of collective bargaining between owners and unions can only be so effective. When the 2 sides realize that the reaching of an agreement is futile, an impasse occurs, which ultimately leads to a lockout. Without the use of interest-based bargaining, in which both sides step away from their positions, identify common concerns, and work together to solve them, it will continue to be a long and hard road for the 2 parties to successfully arrive at a satisfactory collective bargaining agreement. One major discrepancy that has always played a big part between the actors is money. Money plays a part in a variety of different scenarios, such as player salary caps, the chance for owners to make a profit, and the desire to even out the playing field between high and low funded teams. The owners claim that in 2011, 22 of its 30 teams were operating at a deficiency due to the prior negotiations that they had enacted, in which revenue was split 53 to 47%, favoring the sides of the players. Ironically, a major thing that the owners are arguing for is essentially retention of more revenue in their hands. The result, however, is sometimes far from that. From the lockout of 2011, there was a loss of an estimated $400 million from both sides. Bruce E. Kaufman mentions that the exercise of power can have harmful consequences to labor relations and that it interferes with the organization's effectiveness. This can be seen clearly as the owners exercise their right to impose lockouts for the sake of protecting their own interests. When a compromise for the contracts cannot be reached, a great amount of money, amongst many things, are lost in the process. Team owners are not the only ones that are affected. The economy as a whole suffers a loss as there is a decrease in money circulation. Ultimately, players are out of work. There are no tickets to be sold, no games to be televised, no advertisements to be aired, and less revenue to be generated by cities that have relations with NBA teams. The Sacramento Kings is a perfect example. They were one of the teams that took a hit, as they are in a smaller market who is dependent on the revenue brought in to keep the team up and running. So one must ask themselves, is this process of lockouts really amicable, efficient, and wise to use? Instead of arguing over things like wage caps and protection on the investment in players, they should be shifting their paradigm that negotiations are that of a fixed pie to an expandable one. For example, if money is an issue for owners, instead of attempting to cap the salaries of players and affecting the lifestyle that they've grown accustomed to, which therefore inflict damage to their relationship, they could come up with a plan to increase the business-related income that they bring in, or even help improve their public relations. Examples would be for players to partake in NBA charity events or to do more commercials. The current contract that they entered into during 2011 allows for a mutual opt-out by either party in 2017. This means that there is a likelihood that players will invoke that right so that they can reopen the labor negotiation process, as the deal currently stands to favor the owners. Ever since these lockouts, trust between the owners and players have decreased, as there were studies that proved their allegations on owner deficiencies were incorrect. The only way to mend this and to keep from negatively affecting any of the stakeholders is by working together and seeking out the common or complementary interests for both parties. Only then can there be an arrival at an efficient, amicable, and wise result, as well as the restoration of trust.